anyway, I'm going to share kind of my story tonight. Hopefully it inspires you. And I hope that this will feel kind of more Q&A throughout. If you have questions or if I share something that you want me to go deeper on a little bit, I'm totally cool to do that. So we'll dig into it. So sorry, I'm kind of standing in the way here, but a year ago, my stepdad died, and I'm still pretty young, and so it was a pretty heavy, surprising thing that kind of came out of nowhere. He got diagnosed with ALS. ALS is like the worst disease in this world. Anyway, he passed away about a year ago, and as we kind of stood around him on his last night, he was ready to pass and had communicated that. It was just heavy. Like, the room was quiet, sacred, and I had a lot of thoughts on my heart and on my mind that night. And one or two of the thoughts were just that I want so badly in my life to be able to be relied on by my children and by my loved ones the way that I was able to rely upon him. And I also just want to be admired by like my kids the way that I admired him. And in order to pull that off in life, in order to create relationships and go deep with people, you need time. And so time is just such a valuable asset. And so I actually, although we're going to go into real estate investing tonight and kind of go deep on wealth creation and how to go create wealth, my whole 20s were like, I was head down grinding on this journey to create wealth. And about a year ago, when this whole thing went down, I was reminded of, I guess in a weird way, I was so grateful for my past self and the person that I was in my 20s because of all the sacrifice that I took in. Doing sales, buying rental properties, all those sacrifices that I had put in my 20s, I was super grateful for, because as we go deeper in life, if you win in the early years of your life in terms of your career, you'll be able to live life on your terms and give to people and have time. So I want to go a little bit deeper on this concept before I go into my, the other stuff tonight. But life has its seasons. I like to, Gabe, I don't know if you guys have listened to these other wealth series, but he did one, it was the first one that we did, and Gabe's one of the other partners of our company. If you didn't listen to that one, you should go back and listen to it. But he talked about building your life around the 4 F's. So this is your faith, your family, your finances, and your fitness. And he talked about scheduling your life around these, and a life well lived is one where you can kind of like have all these pillars a part of it, right? That being said, there are seasons in life, and I like to think of this concept of like a lamp, like a dark, dim, and a light lamp. And there will be seasons in your life where, when I'm talking about these F's, you'll have to prioritize some, and the light will shine really bright. You serve an LDS mission, that was like for sure, like your faith, that was a light stage for that, for that pillar of your life. I would argue that when you're young and in your 20s, that your finances should be a pretty important pillar of your life, because you're broke. Most of you guys don't have much yet in terms of what you've built, right? So this quote's a little bit aggressive, but I think it's kind of spot on, kind of a hot take. And it feels like it competes with this last, slide or two that I've shared, but I'm going to try to kind of help you understand that it doesn't. The idea is this quote: if you talk about work-life balance as a 22-year-old man or woman, you're hanging out with the wrong people. And I think that in that moment, my stepdad and that whole thing went down, again, I was just really grateful that I prioritized getting ahead at a young age. And so I would invite you all to make sacrifices young. And some of the things I'm going to teach tonight are hard. It requires sacrifice to go build wealth. Like, it's not easy. It's not for everyone. Most people actually won't do it. not to be depressing or whatever, but most people in the room will probably end up deciding that the price tag is too big to go do it. So I would challenge you to be part of the small group that does end up going and doing some of the things that I talked about tonight. So let your finance light burn bright when you're young. So like I said, got a 16 on the ACT test twice. Then I was able to become a millionaire by the time I was 26. And by the time I was 29, I owned 27 rental units that were worth a couple $1 million. And I was in a really, really good position by the time I was done with my 20. And the way that I was able to do this is I focused on 3 simple steps or 3 simple competencies, I guess. So those are to make, manage, and multiply. This is the system that I used to create wealth. And tonight I am going to go kind of deep on the multiply part because that is about investing. However, I am not going to pretend like I didn't go create that capital anywhere else but in sales. So I'm a huge advocate of sales. And so I guess I'll start there. So the make is about sales. It doesn't have to be sales, but I would challenge you young in life to go find something where you can trade value for money, not time for money. Most jobs that you're going to go work here in Cedar while going to school, they will pay you X amount per hour to go work that gig. And you can go do that. It's easier than this. It's way easier than sales, right? But you're in a very slow vehicle, right? And so my question that I would just ask is, do you want to get in a fast vehicle and get ahead really fast and early in life, or do you want to take, a really slow car? So sales for me, I love it. The reason why I love it is, again, you're trading value for money. You don't need a degree to go be a salesperson. Your income is unlimited. We had reps last year that worked for us at Pointe that were first-year reps, right off their mission. They made 50. We had a rep that made over 100 grand as a first-year rep last year in 3-4 months, and that is how I created capital to then participate in investing. There's a lot of kids in this room that killed it last year that made between $50,000 and $100,000. And so it's amazing. Sales is amazing. Get good at sales. Get good at your day job. Don't be embarrassed about taking a job that's a little bit against the fray, a little bit different than what your college professors tell you to go do. It's different. And but in order to go create wealth and become a millionaire at a young age, you have to go be part of the minority, if you will, So that speaks to make. Manage is about leadership and systems. So the amazing thing about sales is that there's leverage and you can kind of like make a ton of money. Unfortunately, there's only one of you. So the thing I love about leadership is there's scale, there's leverage. So if a leader's really good at attracting other people, they can recruit and they can create income on top of just what they're making on their own personal sales. It's also super impactful and way fulfilling. And it's one of the greatest blessings of my life is to like work with other people and be a leader. Also, just managing, part of that is systems and like learning how to work in an organization and run efficient systems. So that's the second one. I like to think of this ladder as like a leverage ladder, if you will. So leverage, just that concept. And I'll talk about leverage in real estate, but what comes to your guys' mind when you hear the word leverage?
One up.
What's that?
One up.
Okay.
That's what I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. No, I love it. You're brave enough to say something. So far, so far you're winning. You're in the game. What else? Some other concepts. Just leverage. Yeah, Lynn. Leveraging debt. Okay. Yep. So yeah, there's a real estate. I'm gonna get into leverage within real estate, but kind of just like in general, what else no wrong answer to this, I want a couple more, yeah, Parker,
You kind of have control,
okay? What else?
using resources that you currently have to expedite growth.
Okay, I love that word exponential. So what I'm kind of trying to get at with leverage is these skills, as I move up this leverage ladder, my leverage increases, right? So in sales, there's one of me, in leadership, there's more of me. In investing, which now I'm gonna get into multiplying, that's what investing is multiplying your money. That's how you create wealth, is you gotta become an investor. The beauty of investing and multiplying is I make a one-time investment of capital and it works for me forever. So it's an activity that I do one time and then it keeps working for me, right? How is that different than the make competence? How are those different? How does the multiply one have more leverage than just making?
You get paid once for it.
Yeah, so in sales, you get paid once for one activity, and then to go get my next income, I need to go do it again and again and again. That's the power of investing. And so again, thinking back to my stepdad's story and that me wanting to have time, even high income earners, doctors, lawyers, accountants, like that make 300, 400, 500 grand a year. If they don't have leverage or they haven't created leverage, they need to go to work, right? They may not have time freedom. So I wanted time freedom really bad, and that's why this last M is really important, the investing part. But I would challenge you, because I'm in a room of a bunch of people that work with me, to get better at your day job and to go all in on it. If you're working with me this summer or you're in summer sales, like even if it's not a career for you long term, take it seriously this year and work really hard at your day job. Because the more money you make in terms of your active income, the more investing you get to go with the state. Your greatest tool for wealth creation is actually your active income, not passive income. Active income is super powerful, and you should go all in on continuing to work really hard and feeding investments with those first two M's. Any questions on this or just thoughts? Okay, so I want to just teach a quick framework on, there's a bunch of people in this room that don't have a rental property. There's some that do, that work with us. Actually, there's a couple I should highlight that have purchased a property even since this being home. Dallin bought a property recently. Parker, where's Parker? Yeah, Parker just bought a property. Mason's got 2 properties now. We're rolling, like we're on our way in terms of this group, and honestly, a lot of these guys in the room are new with us, like they're early stage. So, back to the 3 M's, but it works. Like our system works. If you want to be a part of it, it helps you buy properties and create wealth. Period. Okay, so we're gonna get into the multiplying piece because I hope to add value tonight in terms of just like investing. How do I get into real estate, right? So I teach an acronym, have 5 steps to it. LESGO. Let's go. L, it stands for learn. If you want to get into real estate investing, you have to come to stuff like this. You have to learn. I took a bunch of people out to lunch when I was your guys' age, just asking questions, be in the room with the right people, listen to podcasts. As your confidence increases in it and you learn more, you will then be you'll have the gut to go participate in investing. So learning is super critical. Earning is number 2. Again, I already spoke to this, but your active income is a very important component. There's a lot of real estate investors that kind of shy away from talking about the importance of earning, but you have to. Saving. Why is saving so important? Why is being a saver so important if you want to become an investor?
You need capital.
Yeah. Real estate is a game where you literally have to put money down to go acquire property. You have to have cash. You have to learn to be a saver, not a consumer. I had a mentor. He was actually a professor at BYU when I went to BYU that helped me a ton. And his whole thing was, I want you to act like you're poor. Like even if you have 100 grand in the bank, 200 grand in the bank, you are poor. You are poor for a long time. So subscribe to that idea, right? Live frugal, avoid buying flashy stuff, like you just don't need it yet. And you're gonna thank yourself later in life if you'll delay gratification. Any other thoughts on just like building that saving muscle, how important it is? This is giving your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's important to play defense.
Yeah,
Like once you learn how to earn, you have a lot of money and there's a lot of things that wanna take that from you.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter how much money you make if you don't have.
that's right, yeah. Earning is offense, saving is defense. And that's like a good transition into getting qualified. You will not get qualified for real estate if you don't have the down. So there's 3 things that loan officers look for to help you get qualified. So number 1 is cash. So you need to have the cash to go buy the property. They're literally going to look, a lender will look at your bank statement and you can't hide anything. Like you have to show, hey, I have this money saved. So cash is number 1. Number 2 is your income verification. So they're gonna look at your last 2 years of tax returns. They're gonna average them out if you're a 1099 person. So if you're an independent contractor, this is how they're gonna do it. They're gonna take the last 2 years and say, okay, Bob made 70 grand last year, 100 grand this year. So average that together, 85 grand is what he makes. So anyway, that's, you have to produce income again. And then number 3 is credit. So I would recommend if you're wanting to get into real estate at some point, building credit, get a credit card, make consistent payments on it. It will serve you. It's really hard to get into real estate investing without utilizing debt. And we're gonna talk about debt tonight a little bit. But yeah, unless you're just crushing and making a ton of money, even then, I would argue that you want to buy real estate utilizing debt. So those are the 3 things that I look for. Who watched the last week's presentation with Tanner Litchfield? So 5, 10 of you guys. One of the cool things that I liked about that presentation is it just gave a little bit of room for creativity with real estate. So he talked about seller financing, right? Maybe someone that was on that Zoom, if you would just speak to what seller financing is. Just a quick definition. Mason? Oh, Kelvin, you have something?
You got it.
Me and Mason are talking about this. Essentially, you're buying out the mortgage from the owner of the home. But
Basically, there's actually no mortgage in place because they usually own the property in cash. And they're playing the bank and you're making payments to them plus some interest. So we're not gonna go deep on that tonight, but I wanted to bring that up because getting qualified doesn't always have to mean all 3 of those things that I just mentioned. If you do a seller finance deal, for example, all you would need is the cash. You wouldn't need to go show your income. They may want to know about your credit, but the terms will it gets a little bit easier to get into a deal like that. So that's the cool thing about real estate is it's not always super rigid. Like there's room for creativity and deal making, if that makes sense. The last part is organize your team. So who are the key people that you need to know if I want to go buy a property? Or just be in real estate, not just buy a property, but like if I want to go be a real estate investor, who are the people that come to your guys' mind that I need to like have a relationship with?
A lender.
Okay, lender,
Real estate.
real estate agent. So pre-buying a deal, those are my 2 key people. Main thought on this that I just want to share is not all real estate agents and lenders are created equal. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just mean that there are like more real estate agents in Utah than there are homes. Like there are so many, and a lot of them have like they maybe sell 1 or 2, and then they just have their license. You want to find an agent that is investor minded. That's super important. The best thing I ever did is I found a guy or 2 in college that were really good, investor minded, and they went for dogs properties for me. And I was a good investor in that I had worked on these 3 things to get qualified, and I had learned, I had done my due diligence, I was a saver, I did all these first things. But I had a person in place. I'm a big believer in the who, not how principle. Who, not how, meaning there will be things, even if you do these first couple of things, you're still not gonna know everything. Like going into your first property, you're not gonna know everything. You're still an infant in terms of like your real estate knowledge, and that is okay. If you have a who that you trust, that's got a history that is good, they can help you and be there for you, and they're part of your team. And so one of the reasons why I was able to scale out to, you know, a bunch of units young is I had a couple of agents that were really good. Loan officers, same thing. Yeah, everything I just said on the agent side, I would say on the lender side. What about post buying the deal? Who are the key people that I get in place?
Would you consider a tenant part of your team?
Um,
Because I know
yeah.
some people are like very specific on who they
Yeah,
allow. to-
yeah, I definitely, yeah. Someone that pays me, like, they're the best team ever. Probably my favorite person on the team. So yeah, I've never really thought of it that way, but yeah, I like the idea of like your tenants are like your ally on the team, you know. You don't want like a weird you know, relationship with tenants. So, yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah.
As someone who's not experienced in real estate, what would you want to look for, like in a lender or agent, to know that there's someone who would be good or like beneficial?
Yeah, so have they done deals? I would talk to like a couple of people that have purchased properties with them. I think that's a really good place to start. Did you have a thought?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, on my second property, I had to go through a couple lenders. And it was just hard because a lot of them like couldn't see more than one way to do it. And when I found a lender that I liked, he was super creative and he was like, yeah, if it doesn't work this way, we can do it this way. If it doesn't work this way, we can do it this way. And he was just super committed to making it work out for me. So like that was something that I was looking for, something to be flexible with my situation and find a deal that would work best.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I would say like history, if they've done this, and it doesn't mean that necessarily if they haven't done a ton of deals, they're not, you know, the right fit, but like, is there experience, if they have history, I would ask like, what types of properties have you helped people go? Like that kid that presented last week, Tanner, he helps investors, like that's how he brands himself. He's an agent that helps investors buy rental properties. There's a difference between buying a rental property that cash flows, that's a good investment, and just buying like a primary residence that like someone's gonna live in till they die, you know? So anyway, Landon, do you have a thought? No. Good, okay. Cool. You don't have a question or anything? Yeah, and then, yeah, on the lender side, I would say, yeah, same thing, like they have to be investor minded, in terms of just like how they do stuff. So have you helped investors in the past, or are they just helping like first time home buyers that never bought a rental property, you know? Yeah.
Do you feel like the majority of lenders and real estate agents are like good and have your best interest in mind, or do you think the majority is like only thinking for themselves and their own company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a way good question, and one of the things I appreciate about the agent that helped me buy like a lot of my properties is I saw enough that like we would go to a property and we would literally like in my corner be like, this is not a good deal, let me tell you X, Y, Z, why. And so I guess he earned my trust because not every property we go walk through when he said this is a go. He almost in some ways acted as like a consultant for me and advice, which I thought was cool. And you're not gonna get that in a lot of agents. I got it in mine, and I'm grateful for him and a couple other ones that I've used.
Do you feel like that's a small important?
Someone an agent that says like, this is not a good deal, let's walk from it, that's a good sign. Like if you see an agent or hear an agent say that, to me, it just shows they're not commission bred. So that's a good question. Any other questions? Okay. So I'm gonna get into a couple, actually, let me share this first. So again, being young is a superpower. So there's this idea in real estate, similar to stocks. I guess I'll start with stocks to kind of just like drive this point home. So when you're investing in stocks, there are value stocks and growth stocks. Who knows the difference between those two? So if I'm investing in the stock market, there are value stocks and growth stocks. You guys know what the difference is? A value stock is something that spits off some income. Maybe a very established company like a Coca-Cola or something that, like, you know, they're not going anywhere. They're probably not going to go double in size over the next, you know, because they're so big, right? But they spit off some cash if you're invested in a stock like that. A growth stock might be a younger company that has a lot of upside, right? So they might go grow a lot. However, when you're growing as a company, you're probably not spitting off a bunch of cash to investors because you're taking that cash and you're reinvesting it into your own company to grow. Does that make sense? So real estate is similar. Long term, you can get both. You can get growth and you can get cash flow. But the philosophy that I'm big on is when you're young and when you're in your 20s and 30s, you want to invest for growth. So what does that mean? What is that? And I guess contrasting it with cash flow. So there's in real estate, I showed the stock example. In the real estate example, there's growth and there's cash flow, right? So when I say invest for growth, what does that mean?
You're not gonna see it immediately.
Okay, love that. Meaning it's not going to spit off a ton of cash right away. Now there are cash flow investments even today with high interest rates and prices being high. There are places that I could go invest in the United States to get cash flow if I wanted to. But I choose to invest for growth primarily. The reason why is because of this rule of 72. So the rule of 72 basically says, if I get a 12% return, let's say, and I divide that into 72, the answer is 6. So if I'm getting a 12% return, my money will double every 6 years. The rule of 72 tells me how fast is my money doubling. When I'm an early investor, I want my money to double and grow as fast as possible. When I get older in life, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, I want cash flow because I want that time. I want freedom. I want to be able to spend time with my family. But when you're young, your kids aren't keeping score yet. Most of you guys don't even have kids. You don't need cash flow. You need to grow. You need your equity to skyrocket so that you can be worth a couple $1 million. And then you want to transition your portfolio. You don't have to, but my vision, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is to transition my portfolio as I get older to a cash flow portfolio. But right now, I'm invested in Utah and Idaho and Texas and Florida, like markets where there's high appreciation. Okay, did you have a question in the back?
What was your experience with, because you said you have a family, what was your experience with deciding whether to invest in your own home or start real estate right away? Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Sorry, no.
So, sorry.
It's okay.
So do you know, like, when you're saving up money and you were to put money down on the home, did you start with real estate first, or did you start with just getting
My primary residence. Good question. I'm going to get into that in the very next slide. It's a really good question. Yeah, in fact, I'll transition with that. But the main thought I just want to drive home, finishing this slide up, is as you get into real estate, if you guys end up doing this, you're going to have to kind of prioritize. Do I want to invest in good markets like Utah, you know, high growth markets, which like this is one. Cedar is one. Like you guys buying these properties here, they're probably not cash flowing like crazy. Maybe getting some cash flow, but you're gonna grow here. Like over time, in 5-10 years, these markets will appreciate because jobs are good and Utah's an appreciation market. So I like growth. I have properties that cash flow really well now, but it's the properties that I have owned for quite a long time, and the rents have really increased. So long term, you can have both, and you will have both. But short term, I I would recommend that you prioritize growth investing early on. So this, oh yeah, please.
Sorry, so like, a lot of people say that like the way to fuel growth is by using the cash flow to keep purchasing more and more houses.
Yeah,
So are you saying don't do that, rather use your current income to fuel growth?
yeah.
Or are you saying like the houses can't finance each other?
So I'm saying if, with that mentality, I've got to be investing probably in a Midwest market or somewhere that's a little bit dumpier. Because I need enough cash flow to actually feel it. Like I need, you know, I need substantial cash flow to be able to actually fund another property, right? The problem for me with that is if I ran numbers, which I can play with here in a minute. The person that's just choosing to use their active income and buy in growth markets is gonna wipe the floor with that person that's taking cash flow and rolling into another one slowly over and over again in a bad market. Because you don't have excess cash flow in growth markets right now, like it's really difficult to go get. So to go that strategy, I've got to go compromise and invest in a bad market. And I'm gonna compromise a lot of wealth. Because those markets maybe appreciate 1% to 2% every year. So although I'm getting less cash flow investing in Utah, for example. Take a 10-year time horizon, and let's say Utah appreciates at 5% on average compared to the Midwest at 1%. I'm like way wealthier in this scenario than I am in the Midwest owning this property. And yes, I've gotten, you know, couple $1,000 more in cash flow in the Midwest in kind of the slower market. But I would rather, I'd rather make and manage and work really hard at my day job while I'm young and keep investing in good markets. So I don't own property in bad markets. Like I like good markets for that reason. As I get older, I plan to shift and maybe sell some stuff and buy down some debt to increase cash flow. But for now, I'm like grow baby grow because I'm young and I have time for that money to compound. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you proponent of using income.
Yeah.
Rather than cash flow for property. You're saying using. Okay.
Yeah. Yep, income to buy my next doors. That's my strategy. This will answer your question in the corner. So how I got started, and this is kind of now getting into my story. We probably have another 10-20 minutes, but my first property I ever bought was a fourplex. It was in Provo. I was a junior in college. I had done summer sales a couple of summers. I think I had maybe 80 grand in my bank account. So, which was meaningful. I had worked really hard to go save that, but not like out of this world, right? 80 grand in the bank account. We were 23 years old. I'd done a couple summers and I had gotten to a point where I could get qualified, all three of those things, right? I had some cash. I had made pretty good income over the last 2 years, and then I had worked on my credit. We bought this fourplex. So the answer to your question is I like the idea of when I'm young, part of the sacrifice and this whole strategy that I am big on is not buying the cute fancy house with the white picket fence. That's just my house, and then investing from there. Because I only put 40 grand down to get this investment property. It's a fourplex. I bought it for like 570 grand, put 40 grand down, and I got a fourplex. I got 4 tenants in it. And this property today is worth $1 million, and it's killed it like 7-8 years later. And so the reason why I don't go that route, buy my own house first and then invest in others, is the advantage of doing this house hacking thing is you get to put 3 to 5% down on the purchase price, or as your down payment. If I go that route and I do my house first and then I start doing investment properties, if you don't live in it yourself, you have to put 25% down. So it's a big check that you're writing, and most kids can't afford it. Most people can't afford it. That's why a lot of people don't own rental properties. Is, you know, what's your standard duplex worth here nowadays?
500K.
Okay, so 25% of 500K is like 100 grand. Who in the room has 100 grand? Don't raise your hand if you have. Not a lot of you. So that's why. So I like investing in properties that I can rent that are assets. I believe your own house, if you're not renting it and you're just living in it, is actually a liability. I don't think it's an asset. It just bleeds cash. Yeah, fourplex, yeah, so we lived in it, lived in unit A. It was, I mean, like not nice basement dwellers, total sacrifice. My wife's like total, you know, she's amazing. It was a big sacrifice. If I really get into the story, it tested positive for meth. So we remediated it. I spent a ton of money and we got it like chemically treated. And I could share some war stories, like straight up, but. Then we kept going. So again, this idea of like being young is our superpower. Go ahead. 23. Yeah.
Parker, and did you go the FHA route on that one?
So it was a conventional loan, 5% down. Yeah. There's conventional loans that are 5% down. The key phrase that you want to be looking for is called, it's just owner occupied loan. Doesn't have to be FHA. FHA can be an option. One of the problems with FHA sometimes if you make too much income, you can no longer qualify for some types of FHA loans. So, but yeah, the key is owner occupied loan, which we got on that one. So that's been our strategy. We did that with all of these, and this is the one we currently live in. So I got to like 10, 12 units by just house hacking. Fourplex in Provo, duplex in Pleasant Grove. This one lived in the basement. No windows, just straight up like. Well, I had my wife on my podcast like 2 weeks ago, and she was telling a story about like she went outside one time in like a t-shirt and like dumping snow, and she's like, I had no idea it was. We're just freaking basement dwellers. But we live in the basement. Why would we live in the basement? Because you can charge more from the top, right? Like we were committed to. We are poor. I think in this property, I had 100 grand, 200 grand set away, and we still have this mentality of like, I am poor, delay gratification. I'm not buying a dope house yet. We're poor, you know.
And you got that property when?
That one I bought a year later.
So
1 year later, we were living in the ghetto one, moved to another ghetto one. And this one we bought for 300 and something thousand is a duplex, lived in the basement. This was the next year. This is Provo, kind of south of campus. And then this one we're in now. At some point, we started shifting gears and doing bigger checks and doing actual investment properties. But this one has a basement apartment as well, and it actually covers most of our mortgage. So we live for really cheap, even still today. It's a way awesome strategy to just like kind of control your expenses. So, any questions on this so far? This is one strategy I love, investing for growth. You don't get a ton of cash flow doing this, by the way, nowadays. Like, there's not a lot of cash flow, especially if you're in Utah. You'll still pay a lot, like in terms of your mortgage when you're living in it. The goal is that when you move out of it, there is a little bit of cash flow, so you can pay the mortgage and cover your costs, and that's your goal. It's not going to change your life in terms of cash flow. You will not fund your next investment with this. Like that's why you have to stay hungry and keep working your sales job or whatever job you have. So, and there's other strategies out there, right? All I can speak to is kind of what we've done. Which, by the way, I know there's this like, oh yeah, you did this when the market was, you know, awesome. That will eternally be a thing. There will always be noise. There will always be this like market today doesn't allow for this. Some of these guys I know just bought properties in the last year or two, and the numbers are really good. I think Mason was nodding his head or disagreeing with me when I said you can't get cash flow today. I think where did he go? I don't know, but I think his first deal actually cash flowed really well. Like 40%. Yeah, like you can do it, and I'm sharing this because some of these are my opinions, but like I think Mason has a really good cash flow property right now. Yeah.
How long do you have to live to qualify for the terms of that loan?
Great question. So her question is, how long do you need to live in the property to legally do this? The answer is 1 year. You need to live in it for 1 year. And I'm a little bit aggressive, and the wording on it is intend to live in it for a year. So I would be lying if I didn't say that there were a couple of these where I lived in it for 7-8 months, and then the summer came around, and the message was, my job is taking me to Missouri. We're going to Missouri. We're going to Alabama. Got to sell pest control. So the word intent is there, and by the way, loan officers or loan companies are not knocking towards policing this, you should do it, so you can sleep at night. And follow the rules, but that's how that rule is written, so it's a great question. Yeah,
So like, do you prefer buying duplexes or single family homes? So I know duplexes, like, there's higher vacancy rate,
yeah,
so where's the balance?
great question. So I would begin with what is my superpower, meaning who am I, what's my current situation? If I'm single, I'm grateful I'm married, love my wife, but if I were single, I'd be even still today, I'd be tearing it up with these types of deals and renting out the other rooms. Does that make sense? Because you get away with that when you're single. Married, the reason why we were going like actual fourplexes and things like that is we needed other units, you know, we were down to like live with other couples. However, some of the properties we own are single family homes, they're up and down units, so it doesn't have to be a legal duplex. There are 2-unit properties that can be mother-in-law, ADU, legal duplex. If you're gonna buy a not legal duplex and try to risk it, because technically in that situation, you're supposed to live in one of the units to rent out the other one. You need to be cognizant of the zoning, how hardcore is that city, and like this one, for example, it is technically a single family home. It's on a main road. Like cars are zipping all over the place, no one cares, there's no HOA, you know, like. I never even met a neighbor there, I lived there for a year, so it's that type of a neighborhood. So you can get away with doing the whole single family home thing if it's got 2 units. But I would kind of, you've done this job, like selling pest control, I would just put that cap on it, like, is there a Karen in this neighborhood that's just gonna get mad at me for renting it out and treating it like a duplex? So that's how I think of it. Yeah, good question. Yes,
I don't know how many properties you've got, but when would you consider like a property manager?
that's a great question. So after buying this one, I was about 10, 12 units in. Let's see, this is 4, 6, 8, 10, and then I hired a manager for all of them. And then all my ones that I purchased since, right when I bought them, I just turned it right over to a property manager. So property managers charge like 8 to 10% of rents. And early on, you probably won't be able to afford a manager because you go negative in terms of like cash flow. You probably need to manage your own doors for a while to give yourself some time to get the numbers to optimize and grow. But then, yeah, at some point, it makes tons of sense from a lifestyle standpoint to hire a manager. And then again, it kind of goes back to that, like go do what you're good at, which is whatever your day job is. Go spend time doing that, not fixing leaky toilets, you know. I did have a couple years that were pretty stressful for me where I was like doing this, managing a bunch of reps at Pointe. And then like by nighttime, I was like freaking doing all sorts of crap, you know, it was terrible. But it's part of the game, like you kind of have to do it for the first couple years, so. Yeah, someone else have something, okay.
I was just gonna ask, are you mostly renting out, I mean, I know you've got lots of are you renting out mostly per room, or do you have homes that you're renting out to families?
I don't do a lot of per room.
No,
No, I keep it pretty like lots of families.
Okay.
I don't own, this is the only one that I own really close to a campus. So I
so
actually.
you didn't even have college students living
Yeah,
there?
not even that one, that's actually all family, so like that fourplex is a little bit off campus, it's quite a bit actually ways from campus. And so I don't do a whole lot of rent by the room, you can get more going that route, Mason could speak to that, some of you guys could speak to that. But it's more work to manage it, you got more tenants. And I haven't done a whole lot out of that, you can speak to that. You want to?
Yeah, it's the same thing as having 5. I would imagine it's almost the same amount of work as having 5 different tenants, because like each person's its own, their own agreement, their own thing,
Yeah.
they switch a lot,
More turnover, more work,
definitely.
but you can get more rents.
Yeah,
And
my
so-
my cash flow, I actually cash flow pretty well on that property.
Yeah.
Because I have 5 rooms and stuff.
Yeah. Told you guys. When you stepped out of the room, I was like, I think Mason disagreed with me, I think he actually gets good cash flow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so I'm just talking about growth investing, so the first one was like used leverage, used debt. Even if I had 500-600 grand off for that fourplex, which I did not, use leverage, use debt, it's good debt, like other people are buying you a house, that's the mindset. Other people are buying me a house and paying down my debt. House hacking is amazing, you should do it, so that was point one. Point two, or tip number two, I guess if you will, is value add investing. So I would recommend, not buying stuff that looks perfect. If you want to optimize returns, you'll buy stuff that needs a little bit of work and put the work in, and then you can force equity, force appreciation. Who knows what the difference is between natural appreciation and forced appreciation? Landon.
Just like upgrading the property, running the yard, a pool, painting it, new lighting.
Yep.
Doors.
So that would be, yep, so that would be forced appreciation. I'm basically doing things to drive the value of my property up, right? Natural appreciation is just like sit and wait, right? I love forced appreciation. I love finding properties where I can do X, Y, Z and create value in that property. Parker just bought, that's why he put that right before this started. Maybe just speak to your property that you just bought and like why you bought it.
Yeah, so it's probably actually pretty similar to this, it's a split level home. Downstairs has a kitchen and unit downstairs that's already been remodeled. Upstairs, however, it was a 71 home, so that everything is original upstairs. So currently has no kitchen, flooring's getting torn out, bathrooms getting torn out. And so that part for me is I used to do construction before I started sales, so I'm kind of doing all of the work, so I don't have to pay other people to install all of it, but I don't know if that answered.
Yeah, I love that.
So it's kind of nice because I can just get a load of buy stuff rather than, kind of save some money that way. But
Yep, so I love this idea of like buy a property for, so like, oh, I can tell this story. We bought this for $340, this dumpy, like godforsaken house. And then this was during COVID. And it was right by our office in Oregon, right by the Pointe office, and I was over there all the time. I'm actually not.
That's the same home.
So, and in fact, I've paid Parker to do work at no properties. Because he is handy, but I hired contractors, made this, I knew that we bought this deal for a good price, and I knew if I put money into it, I would force appreciation, right? And this is the only property that I ended up selling, but we did all this work for 4 or 5 months. Bought it for $340, put 50-60 grand into it, so I was in it 400 and sold it for 560 like a year later. So I made 160 grand. Boom, and then I rolled that into a couple other properties, but I made that in a year just flipping this.
Is that is that a duplex or is that just one home?
This is a single family home and it had like an ADU in the back. So it had like a separate little like shop type thing in the back. Yeah. So, and I didn't have intentions to flip it. I don't love flipping properties because it's a little bit speculative and risky. I had intentions to hold it, but I just had so much equity in it that and it wasn't gonna cash flow super well, so I just decided to sell it and roll out into a couple other properties. So yeah.
So what things are like deal breakers, like bad roof?
Really good question. Yeah, so that's a perfect question for this slide because value add, the word you want to look for is cosmetics. Like cosmetics is your best friend. Like paint, some floors, maybe cabinets. You want to steer clear of, like I had a deal that I did 2 years ago that kept me up at night. It was the worst thing ever. And the foundation like messed up. And the city was like, it was terrible. So stay away from it. If it has a bad foundation, do not touch it. HVAC can get expensive. I'd be very careful with like HVAC. Electrical will ruin your life. Like electrical, if you have a serious electrical thing going on, it will ruin a deal and it will kill 10 years of appreciation. Will get killed. So electrical, HVAC. I have a roof guy that's freaking amazing. It's so cheap, named Fernando. That will throw the roof on your house. Basically, like a nickel and a handshake. You ever need a roof guy? Fernando. So I will buy the properties with the bad roof. This one, that bad roof, that ADU thing I was referencing. And then the fourplex had a bad roof, and we charged me like $6,000 to replace that whole bad roof. It's like 4,000 square feet. So anyway. To answer that question, so cosmetics, like, you can kill it if there's like a kitchen that you can go make pretty. Dude, here's another amazing tip, is if you can add bedrooms or add a kitchen. Like if it has a separate entrance but not yet a kitchen down there, your rents, you'll get way more rents that was not priced into initially buying it. And the value of the property will increase big time. So adding kitchens, adding bedrooms, making it look prettier. However, you don't need to overdo it in terms of making it look like absolutely amazing. If you're gonna go flip it, maybe, but if you're just making it pretty enough to rent and get the rents that you want, like I wouldn't go crazy on fixing it up and making it look like the Taj Mahal. It's like you're not going to sell it. You know, so yeah, that's.
When you're adding this, do you ever like add landscape to build the value ever? Or is it
Yeah.
mainly just?
Sometimes it doesn't, like. You won't get an amazing return on that unless you have like a really, like if the landscaping is going to stop your ability to go and rent it at the cost that you want to, I wouldn't mess a ton with landscaping. But if it's like really overgrown or bad, like you want to get it just good enough on the landscaping front.
Are you mowing all your properties or what?
No.
It was.
I used to. Yeah, dude, I was pretty like. When I first had these properties, I couldn't afford from a cash flow position to like not do it, and then rents keep creeping up, and at some point you can start to shovel stuff off. And Bryce Wayman last year had a recruit named Peyton that was gonna come out, and then he bailed, and then I just found out he's the guy that mows all my properties. Some kid that started selling for us last year mows my properties. And I put him a nickel every couple of weeks. God bless him.
I will say this, part of your team that you're gonna build should be a good inspector on that. A lot of like the big scary stuff like your HVAC system,
Yeah.
electrical, sewer lines. A lot of those you can sleep really well at night if you trust your inspector.
Yeah.
But then that can tell you, okay, I'm going into this knowing my HVAC system's 10 years old, or it's brand new, right? And they give you an idea of like what you expect for the next 5 years. So hopefully a realtor has a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can ask some questions that way, but I would say that's something.
Yeah, that is the goal. Always get an inspection done. This property is the one I was talking about with the foundation thing. The story there is I bought this, it's a triplex that is massive, it was like, I thought I was just gonna kill it on this deal, I think I bought it for $400,000. It was in Ogden, Utah, and so then the seller was like, I gotta get rid of this, I don't wanna do an inspection, you don't have to do an inspection to buy it, and it was the first property I ever bought without an inspection, and it was like, of course, the one where the foundation is literally shot, and it was terrible. So always get an inspection, always, like never ever look again.
Mark, did you end up selling it or what did you?
No, I still own it, I just. I bought the city on it, it was a whole thing, yeah. I still have it and I have to hold it probably till I'm old to get a return on that one. Sometimes you miss. The good news is it does cash flow now, like it does cash flow pays every month. And I've moved on emotionally. And anyway, growth locations only, invest in good market, that would be my tip. It doesn't mean you can't invest in, like we sell in a bunch of markets in here. I actually think they're pretty good markets to buy real estate, as long as they're emerging, they have good jobs. Like Northwest Arkansas, for example, is the headquarters of Walmart, like that's a good, there's a good economy there. I just would avoid like places that are not gonna grow. So it's tempting to say, oh my gosh, you can go buy a duplex for $75,000 in Michigan in X little small town. And there's a reason why it's worth 75 grand, you know? So I would just be, I'd be mindful of that. I like growth. You're young, and the power of being young is you have 10, 20 years for deal with the double, and then when you get to a place where your kids start keeping score a little bit and you want to have some more time freedom, you've built a big enough iceberg that you can now start to go chip off it and borrow from it and have some freedom. So any questions on that piece? So my vision is basically this: accumulation through making, managing, and multiplying. I want to continue to stack wealth, create, and then at some point, I want to utilize this network by putting it in assets that cash flow better. So at some point, if you don't end up getting to cash flow, then what was the whole purpose of getting into real estate? The whole reason I got into real estate is because of cash flow. But there is this game you have to play, in my opinion, which is called create net worth, get equity, and then translate it into cash flow. Because you're playing a little bit of a slow game if you just buy dummy properties that don't appreciate very well. So that is my vision. And that is that's my plan to go create a bunch of time freedom. And anyway, everyone else has their kind of journey and their path that they're on, but I love real estate. It's changed my life. It's an amazing, safe place to go park money if you're in it for the long haul. So, any questions on anything I've shared tonight? Sorry, I kind of all over the place, but yeah.
If you were back in your 20s, pretty early on,
Yeah.
and you were still waiting on the cash flow, or
Yep.
sorry, not the cash flow, just the money, the
Yep.
capital to do it.
Yep.
You're doing sales in the summer. You're what kind of things of action are you doing if you go back, as far as learning and growing?
So, learn and earn and save, and that you're gonna feel like a crazy person just like continuing to run that race, but like that's at the end of the day, like you specifically have a couple buds now that are in properties. Like I would ask them questions and lean on them and learn from them and visit their property and ask questions about why they bought it and what the numbers are like. And the best people to learn from are people that are in the game,
Yep.
If you're trying to learn about a sport, go talk to an athlete, go talk to the spectator that's watching. So I would talk to actual investors and what they're experiencing. And then at some point, what happened with me is I did actually 2 summers before I got super serious about this whole thing. I literally remember laying in the grass in a field on a Saturday, middle of the day, FaceTiming my soon-to-be wife, like just cupcaking, not working hard, I should have been knocking, I was not. And I regret those days. But what happened is at some point, my vision became so clear and I was wanting to do this so bad that next summer, like there was none of that. Like I was an absolute, I was obsessed because I didn't want to work so hard to create enough income to be able to get off the sideline and get into the game. So just keep getting really clear on the vision and get pumped about it. And then when the lights turn on, it's time to go earn. You just work harder than the people that don't have clarity. Clarity breeds success. If you get clear on your goals and your vision, then you'll go, your actions will follow. So does that help?
Absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunately, it took me a couple of years longer than I wanted it to as well, so it's a good thought. Parker, a good name.
What are your thoughts on retirement accounts,
Yeah,
Roth IRAs or all that stuff?
so I had some, and then I paid the fees and I got out of them to buy more real estate. So that's what I think about that. I'm not super down for that ride because there's way more wealth generators in real estate. So let me share, I guess, an example. In the stock market, because that's your retirement accounts are all invested in long-term kind of stock, portfolios. In the stock world, how do you make money? Appreciation. right? There's one wealth generator in the stock market, it's called appreciation. Stocks appreciate over time, and yes, they do, and yes, if you invest in retirement accounts, you'll be okay long term. Real estate has appreciation, has natural appreciation, the same as the stocks, but it has forced appreciation, which I brought up tonight. It has cash flow, which is money coming in every month if I want to take that strategy or if I can go create it. It has tax advantages that are insane. The benefit for me from tax advantages alone from real estate is over the last 4 or 5 years has been incredible. I can use leverage. So in the stock market, if I want to go invest, like if I want to go buy a stock and invest 200 grand, if I want to go buy $200,000 worth of stocks, I need to bring 200 grand to the table. In real estate, that first property I bought was worth 600 grand, and I brought $40,000 to the table. So when the market does 10%, let's say 1 year we have a good year and the real estate market does 10%, that 600 grand just turned into 660 grand. I just made 60 grand on my money, and I only invested 40,000. So you leverage, you get to use debt in real estate. So these are all these reasons why I love real estate. And so at some point I had to kind of call my own self out and say like I had 100 grand, I think, in my mid-20s in a retirement account, and I like hated even looking at it. It's just stupid. Like, it doesn't change my life. I don't care if I have money in an account when I'm 70 years old. Like, I want to go live an epic life way sooner than that. So that's my long way of saying I view a lot of those types of accounts and that line of thinking as like long down the road. And I just want to live an epic life way sooner than that. And I think real estate's way cooler vehicle to go and get that done in a super amount of time, if that makes sense. But don't send your parents out for me or even.
Parker, I think a lot of people talk about diversification
Yeah,
of like their assets, and that's why people do
Yeah.
stocks and other ways.
yeah.
How do you diversify with real estate?
I think geographically you can diversify. So I own property in Utah, Idaho. I'm actually a limited partner in deals in Texas, Florida, Maryland, Hawaii. I'm the partial. So I'm like, I think geographically you can diversify. And then even within like asset classes, I own a lot of like 2 to 4 unit properties, but I'm also in a bunch of big multifamily stuff. I'm in some gas stations. Anyway, so the answer is I'm not, in terms of like stock or real estate and stock and stuff like that, I'm not super diversified, mainly because I just believe in the asset class so much.
Yeah.
So, but I am diversified in terms of geography a little bit. That being said, I am bullish on Utah. Like Tanner, I thought last week's presentation was really cool. I'm very much, I think Utah is amazing. And I thought that thought he shared on Utah specifically, where he said, where are the highest appreciation markets in the country? Did you guys hear him talk about this? I'll just repeat it for people that didn't hear it, and we'll close up here in a sec. But list off the top appreciation markets in the country. Washington, California, Florida. Yeah, kind of Florida now. What's another one on the East Coast? Yeah, Seattle and Washington. New York. So New York, like real estate's crazy expensive in New York. And then he referenced Utah. All those other states that we mentioned, maybe minus Florida, are all blue states. And when buying blue states, that's fine, but they're very much more tenant. They're advocates for the tenant, like in a big way. And so Utah's cool because it's a very high appreciation market, but it's a red state, pro business. So it's I don't know. Anyway, I think Utah's an amazing place to buy real estate.
You talked about like being committed to your job,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering what ideas do you have for like finding work or creating work that I get paid based on value rather than hourly? Like, do you know of any that isn't like just during the summer, or like some ideas, like things I could start myself?
Yes, I mean, I think for me, sales is it was what I went and did, so it's kind of the one that I'm a big like advocate for. But there are gigs like while going to school, and even like virtually selling. Like I have a brother that sells life insurance The answer for me is probably gonna have to come back to sales, because it's just like this, it's this place where I can control my income and create revenue for a company. And when I'm a revenue driver for a company, I'm gonna get paid better than most people. So drive revenue, like whatever company it is, whatever time of year it is, like you wanna go figure out, how do I go drive revenue for that company? Because I'll be able to get paid really good if I can go create revenue for that company. So, yeah, Lynn.
Your company here, Blackout Marketing. So they pay on value. Super cool.
There you go.
Come talk to me.
But again, that's sales. So again, that's.
Starting next week.
Yeah,
I mean, how much cushion would you have to avoid like going belly up?
yes,
Let's say things go bad,
yeah,
you have.
6 months of reserves is awesome. 6 months, so in the scenario of that fourplex, first property I ever bought with 80 grand saved. 40 grand was our total down payment, it's actually like 32 grand, and then I talked about the roof thing and a little HVAC thing, I mean, in total it was 40. So I was 40 grand into it, I had 40 grand as a cushion. Summer was starting in a couple months, so I was feeling pretty comfortable because I'm gonna go out and work again. But I like the idea of having 6 months of reserves, and when I say that, I mean like no one is paying you rent for 6 months. So my mortgage on that place was about 3 grand or something like that, it'll be something hundred. So 3 times 12 was about 40 grand, and so that's why I felt pretty comfortable. So, good question. Any other questions before closing up? Cool, anyway, yeah, you guys are awesome, I really appreciate you being here tonight, and you can hit me up anytime, shoot me a DM, I love this stuff, I love talking about it. How's you have something?
Alright,
It's okay.
I just see stuff on my group like on section 8 and stuff, like.
Yeah.
You ever thought about, I don't know a lot about it, so what.
Usually section 8, so like that growth versus cash flow thing I'm talking about, that's usually gonna be kind of a trap, yeah, like being tempted by cash flow type situation. Dumpy. And again, I'm not trying to be like judgmental with that, but it's just usually like low, it's not gonna appreciate a ton. And your superpower, or how young you are, and the kind of money you made this summer, like just start buying good assets at a young age. And even if they're cash flowing a little bit less than like a section 8 type deal would. An extra $200 a month in cash flow is not gonna change your life, you know? 200 times 12 is about $2,400 a year, it's like, it's not a big deal. There are people that don't have the active income engine that some of you guys do with sale, and $2,400 might actually mean something to them in terms of cash flow, so they default to these like styles of investing, if that makes sense. You, I've heard, did awesome, like I would bet on yourself, work your active job, and invest for growth, because yourself in 10 years, when you're in your 30s, and you look back, you will thank yourself for choosing strategies that where you're kind of leveraging that rule of 72 a little bit more. So, and Tanner last week shared very similar thoughts. I really love a lot of the stuff he shared too. But anyway, thanks for being here. I'll hang out. You guys can ask questions. And thanks Mason, these guys for setting this up tonight with the food and stuff. This was fun. So much love. Thanks for coming.